Hello, my name is Terrence Littlejohn, and today I chose from Monster to Marty. We represent Mary Dreyer. William Dreyer and Mary Burnett were married on October 27, 1633, at St. Martin in the Fields in London, according to church records. On March 3rd, 1635, or 1636, William Dreyer took the freedman's oath at the General Court in Boston. Mary Dreyer backed Annie Hutchinson in 1637 when she argued that God didn't just speak to people via the clergy, but also spoke directly to them individually. Dreyer joined Hutchinson in what was known as the Annie Heresy, where they tried to establish a Bible studies club for both men and women. In defiance of the bureaucrat legislation of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. On October 17, 1637, Mary gave birth to a male-formed stillborn child who was buried in privacy. When the authorities learned of this monstrous birth following Anne Hutchinson's trial, the Hutchinsons and Dryers expelled from Massachusetts in January 1638. They ordered its immunization in front of a huge crowd in March of 1638. Withrop shared descriptions with many of his correspondents, and in 1642 and in 1644 accounts were printed in England. The birth effect was viewed as proof of the heresy and mistakes of enemies. Along with Hutchinson, Mary Dreyer and her husband William were expelled from the colony in 1638. The group, which included Hutchinson and Dreyer, relocated to Portsmouth in Rhode Island on the suggestion of Roger Williams. Along with 18 other men, William Dreyer joined the Portsmouth Compact. Mary Dreyer joined the Religious Society of Friends, Quakers. After hearing George Fox's sermon and feeling that it was in agreement with the beliefs that she and Hutchinson held years previously. In 1652, Mary Dreyer and her husband traveled to England with Roger Williams and John Clark. She finally established herself as a Quaker preacher. In 1652, William Dreyer went back to Rhode Island till 1657. Mary Dreyer remained in England. She went to Boston the following year to voice her opposition to the new rule outlawing Quakers, and as a result, she was detained and driven out of the colony. After continuing to spread Quakerism throughout New England, Mary Dreyer was detained in New Haven, Connecticut. In 1658, following her release, she went back to Massachusetts to see William Robinson and Marie Stevenson, two English Quakers who had been detained. She was also detained before being exiled from the colony permanently. She returned to Massachusetts a third time with a group of Quakers to openly flout the law. This time she was apprehended and given the death penalty. Two other Quakers were hung after a brief trial, but because her husband was friends with Governor John Winthrop, he obtained a last-minute state of execution. After her desires, because she had refused to confess her sins and renounce her Quaker religion, she was compelled to go back to Rhode Island, from where she took a preaching trip to Long Island, New York. But in order to challenge the anti-Quaker statute, her citizens compelled her to go back to Massachusetts in 1660. She once more refused to change, despite the pleadings of her husband and family, and on May 30th, she was found guilty once more and given the death penalty. The punishment for Mary Dreyer's crime of being a Quaker in Massachusetts was to be hanged on Boston Common the next day. She died as a martyr. In declaration of the sad and great persecution and resident of the people of God, or Quakers, in New England, for the worshiping of God, Edward described the execution.